Is the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who has a new initiative aimed at helping women facing violence, women and girls facing violence. So tell us about it.
Well, unfortunately, in this great city of ours and across our country, there is an epidemic of violence against women and girls. Every 3 days, unfortunately, a woman is killed at the hands of a man. So what we're trying to do from City Hall is to tackle violence against women and girls by supporting those groups that help women fleeing a violent husband, women fleeing their homes. So I've announced today a further £3 million. We're funding north of £170 million to tackle violence against women and girls. And this £3 million will be deliberately ring-fenced for grassroots organisations that provide specialist bespoke assistance, counselling, legal advice, safe accommodation, because unfortunately the cost of living crisis is making it really hard for the grassroots groups, but also it's meaning that women are staying longer in an abusive relationship, and we're going to help them leave those relationships.
And is this specifically aimed at women from minority groups, ethnic minority groups?
So this funding I've announced today is ring-fenced. We're working with the London Community Foundation to those grassroots organisations that haven't got access to government funding. There are some brilliant big organisations helping women fleeing domestic abuse, tackling violence against women and girls. Lots of brilliant grassroots organisations who often miss out on funding. So this is my second round of this sort of funding. My previous £3 million supported 41 groups, 30,000 women, and I've announced today a further £3 million. We're hoping more groups will bid, more women will benefit.
But this is for specifically
absolutely
BAME people, yeah.
Yeah, and also specialist LGBTQ groups, particularly focused towards those grassroots organisations who are helping to serve those. We call them, I don't like this phrase, hard to reach individuals. What I really think we mean is underserved individuals.
As you know, the identity of a woman is a complex question for some people. So would you put money into organisations that believe in the biological definition of a woman and safe spaces for them?
So a lot of the groups we work with, they're quite clear in relation to safe spaces, in relation to gender being defined by biology for a variety of reasons. But all the women who receive support have been receiving a violence from a man. And so it's really important that we trust the respective groups to know what's best for their service users, rather than prescribing what service users should be receiving.
So there's not a ban on those who believe in biological sex differences?
No, we're not saying to these grassroots organisations, you must do X, Y, Z. What we're saying is, here's a pot of money. As long as you are supporting women who need help and their children who need help, and it could be in relation to counselling, it could be in relation to legal advice, it could be in relation to safe accommodation. I'm quite clear, though, and so are the groups I speak to, that the issue here is male violence.
And are you, personally, you're running for election next year, are you happy with Keir Starmer's latest statements on gender identity?
I think Keir's been quite clear in relation to trying to grapple with what is, a complex issue, but recognising that what we don't want is any election to be an election where, culture wars are used as a proxy for discussions that should take place sensitively. I'm quite clear, and I'm sensitive to the fact that when I speak to experts in this area, 1 out of 4, trans teenagers tries to kill themselves. When I speak to experts in this area, and I'm told that almost half of trans people at the age of 26 try and kill themselves. That's the reason why we should be sensitive about talking about these sorts of issues, recognising though that often women fleeing domestic abuse, fleeing violence, from the hands of a man, often want a safe space, and we've got to recognise that and be empathetic towards that.
Part of your campaign against violence against women was the Mate campaign, encouraging people to sort of in banter to pick up sexism. Do you think, with hindsight, that was wise?
Absolutely. Look, that campaign was devised after working with some expert behavioural scientists. And what we've got to recognise is when you talk about violence against women and girls, there's a massive spectrum. On the one extreme, it's the murders committed by men against women. As I said, one every 3 days across our country. But it starts with, often sexist comments, banter. Often when men are together, they may use language that's inappropriate. That can spread to misogyny, sexism, sexual harassment of women, and the like. And the point behind that campaign, it was the second phase of the campaign. The first part of the campaign was Have a Word, made with experts in the violence against women and girls sector, a coalition of experts advising us. And the key part of the first phase was, look, if you are in a situation where one of your friends is behaving in a way that's inappropriate, it could be in a gym, it could be in a shop, it could be in a bus, have a word with yourself about why you're having a word with your mate. The second part of the campaign is saying to men, listen, if you're in an environment where it's just men and one of you may be acting inappropriate in relation to sexist comments, sometimes, humiliating that friend may not be the most effective way to change their behaviour. But, in a nurturing way, saying, listen, mate, what you said is not appropriate. You should reflect on what you've said. And we've got to accept, Adam, that, actually the cause of violence against women and girls is the attitudes of our gender, sexism by men. And so we can't just allow women to hold the responsibility of addressing this issue. Men are going to take
responsibility. I mean, that was really my point, because some people said, it's not so much young people having banter who are the real sort of male sexists. It's older, perhaps more established people, perhaps people in a kind of paternalistic role vis-a-vis women who are the real problem.
It's both, Adam. I mean, Adam, when you speak to women below the age of 24, 90% of women below the age of 24 have been the receiving end of sexual harassment. And these campaigns have been devised and designed by women, experts in the violence against women and girls sector, but also working with behavioural scientists. It's not going to be one silver bullet. We've got to make sure we start in primary school by educating boys about healthy relationships, about how they should treat women. In secondary schools, too many girls stop playing sports because of teasing by the boys in the playgrounds, and so that's in itself another issue. Women I speak to often impose a curfew themselves to get home before dark. They wear trainers rather than the shoes they want to, so they can run faster. They carry keys in their hands, they can use them as offensive weapons. And so we've got to recognise the whole host of things we've got to do. The Have a Word campaign, say mate to a mate, is just one part of a spectrum of measures that need to be taken.
And you say that the £6 million campaign, where's that money from?
So the support we're giving to the refugees and the support groups, £3 million today, £3 million 2 years ago, is part of the City Hall funding, total funding of £117 million to tackle violence against women and girls. Some of the other things we're doing...
And that's what, from council tax or...?
Combination of council tax, combination of business rates reserves, combination of monies in City Hall. We're also, for the first time ever, we started putting GPS tags on men convicted of domestic abuse and GBH once they leave prison. And that's really important because we can't just focus on the women, important though that is. We've also got to target the men and the perpetrators. The Met Police Service has set up now a predatory unit targeting the most prolific male offenders. So it's going to be tough on crime, the perpetrators, but also supporting the victims and survivors as well.
I did just want to ask, I mean, obviously this is your own initiative. What have been the lessons for you from the whole ULEZ row in terms of coordinating with Labour centrally?
Well, I'm quite clear that the ULEZ policy, the ultra emission zone, is effective in both tackling the climate emergency. We've managed to reduce more than 800 tonnes of carbon dioxide. That's worth 1.1 million flights between London and New York. We've also managed to address a public health emergency, around 4,000 premature deaths a year because of air pollution, children with stunted lungs forever because of air pollution, adults with a whole host of health issues from asthma to cancer, heart disease to dementia. We know the ULEZ works because in central London, we've managed to reduce toxic air by almost 50%, in inner London by a further 21%, a third fewer children being admitted to hospital because of air pollution. But in outer London is where there's the largest number of premature deaths. The top 10 boroughs with the largest amount of premature deaths are all in outer London, 5 million Londoners. And that's why the expansion of ULEZ is so important, because clean air shouldn't be a privilege, it should be a human right. We don't accept dirty water, why dirty air? But I've continued to listen, which is why I've announced further support for every Londoner with a non-compliant car and a non-compliant motorbike, more support for small businesses, more support for charities. And the basic point is this, Adam, we're doing this without a penny of support from central government. The government has given support to clean air zones in Bristol and Birmingham and Manchester and Portsmouth, but not London. And so we're lobbying the government to give us support as well.
Even if it costs you votes, you carry on with ULEZ.
Well, look, the ULEZ policy is popular in London. I accept there are some people with concerns. We're trying to address those concerns after listening to those concerns. I'm going to carry on listening to the concerns Londoners have, but we can't kick the can down the road when it comes to addressing a public health emergency or tackling a climate emergency.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Adam. Take care.